others with your content, and show how much you care. I think this is the essence of what I'm really saying right now, especially if you don't have a big following, you don't have tons of people that know who you are, and you don't have like these crazy results right now, then you can never compete on the actual words that you're sharing. You can never compete on the status that you have or the influence. But what you will be able to 100% compete on is how much energy you bring to the game, how much passion that you bring to it, and how much you care. That's the biggest challenge that you want to set yourself, is like, let it be that nobody in your niche cares about your target audience more than you do. Let it be that no one is showing more care to your audience than you are. And that's how, when people are coming and gravitating towards you, they're going to be like, yeah, that's my person. That's my leader. Because shit, if I can get them to care about me the way that they've been caring about like their audience and their following, then I'm safe, I'm taken care of. And at the end of the day, like, that's what people need to feel before they become clients, customers, and people that are going to be following in your organization. They have to feel safe with you. So right now, chances are, if you're anything like me, like, you do genuinely care. Just like I was a few years ago, like, I cared more than most people from everything that I heard. And when I used to get into deep connections with people, I realized that, like, wow, I do actually care a lot more than others. But now it's time for you to start showing that care. Now it's time for you to stop hiding behind the screen and seeing other people who don't care more than you take up your audience. Now it's time to show like the actual heart that you have. That's your authority. So, yeah, it's good to be back. Yo, welcome back to Mo's Flow, the show where souls grow and hearts glow. And I know it's been a while, but in today's episode, I'm going to be sharing with you what I believe to be the fundamental reasons as to why you're not actually generating an abundance of interest, leads, who can potentially become customers and clients in your business online. Through your organic content or through your paid ads, through all the media that you're essentially putting out there. So there's a lot of value that I'm going to be providing for you today, as always. And so please go ahead, and if you do get some value from the video, I love it when you give me a comment and actually let me know what was the biggest aha moment, the gems and the shifts that helped you the most. So yeah, the reason why I wanted to touch on this subject in particular is because when I personally reflect on my journey as an entrepreneur, and I think about some of the most significant milestones in my journey that like really took me from feeling as though I was getting no results, there was no visible results in the form of clients that were coming in, and I just wanted like some quick win that was going to really help me to believe in myself and believe that I could keep going and eventually get to the pinnacle point of the success that I'm aspiring to reach. And so one of the biggest breakthroughs that I personally remember, and I tell this story all the time, is when I really got fed up because I'd already done like 4 years, maybe, I think it was 3 or 4 years of doing online advertising, paid advertising, inorganic. And every single month I was committed to, even with the very little money that I had from my job, I was committed to taking some of that money, which was between, I would say at a minimum, £300, all the way to 600 and even £1,000 of my own cash. And I was putting that into Facebook, Meta, every single month so that I could generate leads for my business. But it was a terrible strategy. And the reason I say this is because I didn't necessarily have the understanding of offer creation, messaging, copywriting. And so all I was doing was like putting together this terrible creative and expecting that by throwing money on it, I'm going to be winning the auctions as the highest bidder in Facebook. So that was what I was taught, but it's not really what truly works, because even if you become the highest bidder and you do generate leads, the kind of leads that you'll be generating will be literally the worst kind of leads, who are not aligned with the offer, who are not willing to pay for a high ticket purchase, who are going to cause you a lot of problems, etc. So if you ever looked at some of my first ever ads that I put out there, I mean, they were absolutely terrible. A 3-year-old could have made a better ad on Canva than I did back then. But that's how my journey started. And so because of this, imagine 3 to 4 years of me just putting in money into Facebook and social media, not generating any high ticket sales really. I think there was one that I got luckily, but I probably invested about at least, I would say, 500 times by 10, so about 15 to 20,000 on my own money from my job, of which I was only working like minimum wage job. And I put in about 15, 20K into advertising to essentially get it to tell me that I was terrible. That was the best thing that I got after all that time. And then when I really had that message land for me that, you're not good at this, you're a terrible advertiser, you got to do something different, then I was just really at my point of like the valley of despair on the journey, and felt like I have to do something different. So I reached out to my mentor, and he was teaching me with ads at the time, but a lot more on the reviewing of the ads and how to set up ads in terms of the ads manager, not necessarily in how to create good ads and how to make video ads and things like this. So I said to him, listen, I don't think it's anything really to do with my skill as to why I'm feeling the way that I am right now, that I just don't want to continue. I think it's a mindset issue, because I truly believe that there is an opportunity here to make returns, but I don't think I can continue right now. I'm feeling broken. And so he gave me a big shift in terms of my mentality, which, if you're watching this right now and you're on your advertising journey and you've been investing and you're not seeing returns, or you're not actually getting what you initially thought you might be getting from these investments, then this is going to absolutely land for you. Because what he said to me is that, well, if you look at everything that you've invested up until this point and you see it as if this is all gone to waste, if you see it all as if that's the end of the money, then you haven't actually got a clear picture as to how money works. Because money works in a cyclical nature, where when you give, there's eventually going to be a effect of the cause of what you've just done, which is going to be receiving. So what are you going to receive in exchange for that now? And so even though the money might not necessarily be coming back to you straight away, it will come back to you in the future at some point, as long as you don't quit and you continue on this journey. And not only will it come back, but it will also come back in greater amounts and in abundance. And so I just was like, yeah, thank you. That's exactly what I needed to hear, and have that reassurance from someone who had actually invested a lot more money in ads than I'd done, and seen better results. So I was like, okay, let me just continue going and trusting in the process. So rather than continuing to just do what I was doing before, which wasn't working, insanity, the definition of that is to continue doing the same thing over and over and expect different results. Instead of doing that, I was like, no, let me do something a little bit different. And I'm not just going to put in money into my business and into growing my ads and that being my main strategy. What I'm going to actually do is I'm going to use my brain a little bit more. And I'm going to start putting out creatives to my social media account, which at the time was mainly on Facebook and Instagram. I grew my Instagram to a few thousand followers, but I decided that I was going to pivot to TikTok and start completely from scratch, from zero. Never done it before. Didn't even know that you could advertise on TikTok, but I thought I'd give it a go. And I made a commitment that every single day I was just literally going to make one advertisement, one piece of content every single day for 90 days. So I started doing this, and after day 30 of me putting out these advertisements and pieces of content, it was like I was getting absolutely nothing for the first 30 days. So imagine I put out a piece of content and it gets like 5 views. Next video gets like 10 views, gets like maybe 100 views. And I was averaging those amounts for a good 20, 30 days. And then one day I woke up and it was crazy because I'd just seen like I had loads of notifications on my TikTok. And so when I went onto it, I was like, crap, what's just happened here? Why am I getting so many notifications? And what actually had happened was one of my advertisements had gone viral. So not only were these notifications, but what these actually were, not just notifications of likes, but these were notifications of people commenting saying, I'm interested, like, give me some more information, show me what you've got to offer. These were leads. So that was like, for me, like one of the biggest breakthroughs in my business, like being able to have that skill of, putting out free content organically that was bringing in these leads for me. And that just gave me a different level of confidence, because up until that point, everything that I was doing when it came to advertising felt like gambling. It was like a lottery. It was this slot machine that I was using to, just put some money in and expect that maybe one of them is going to win and it's going to get me results. However, when I made the shift to this strategy of putting out free content before advertising with money, my testing strategy changed. And I had so much more conviction and certainty that as soon as I would take a free piece of content from TikTok social media and put it onto Ads Manager, I knew 1,000% that that is always going to generate me leads, right? And so my quantity and volume of leads, like overnight, it went through the roof. My lead cost dramatically went down, and I actually started to make more sales a lot quicker. So this was definitely a big breakthrough for me. The mistake and the thing that I didn't know I would have had to learn at the time was that, quantity is great, but also quality is something that you want to factor in too. So one of the problems with that strategy that I personally had is that my whole focus was just on initially like followers, vanity, them kind of metrics. And on Instagram had like tons of followers, but no customers, no leads. Whereas on TikTok, I was like, no, I'm going to go for leads. I went for leads, but as much as I was able to get some clients and customers, it was like the quality of the clients and customers compared to who I truly wanted to attract there was a big discrepancy there. And so this is another big reason for why, like right now, what I'm doing with this YouTube content is I'm being very intentional with the kind of content that I'm putting out there, because I'm looking to attract a very specific type of person in my targeting. So the journey has definitely changed and evolved. But if you're just starting out right now and you're maybe at a point where you don't have any subscribers, you don't have any followers, you don't have any leads in your business, and you're really just wondering, should you go and waste money on advertisements like I did, or should you go about it a smarter route? What I'd be saying to you right now is that you 1,000% don't want to make the same mistakes that I did, but to go in from day one, like do what I'm currently doing, which is go on YouTube and speaking to your audience, building these soul connections, like you probably won't have the confidence to do that right now. And so I think the middle ground is not necessarily doing the absolute worst thing that I did, but more so replicating the success that I had on social media platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and starting to get your first little wins, starting to get those organic leads. Because when you do generate some leads for your business and you're having conversations in the DMs and on phone calls, you will actually start feeling like you are running a business and you're getting good results. And as soon as you got that belief and that feeling, like that's one of the first major milestones that you will never forget. So now it comes to like, okay, well, all sounds well and good, back then with TikTok, it was easier for you because the algorithm was better, or there weren't as many people on TikTok. I mean, I'd personally argue to that as much as maybe I was one of the earlier people doing it a few years ago, I mean, it's still only 2 to 3 years. It's not like that much different. And the algorithm has, in fact, got stronger and better. But you might be looking at your videos that you're putting out right now that are only getting, 500 views, 1,000 views, and they're not truly breaking out to having the virality that you really need in order to bring in a volume of leads. What I'd be saying for you is that truly you just haven't done the necessary work of, number one, ideation and proper research into what's going to go viral and what's going to be able to register interest from other people. So the biggest shift that I made, and one of the reasons why my TikTok videos started to go viral after like 30 days, is because I was literally doing research every single day as to what videos were already going viral. And then I would pick up like 5 to 10 within my niche, and I would just copy those videos with my own face on there. Because a lot of these were written, so it was very easily duplicatable. Whereas if you're doing a talking video from your heart, intuitive, it's not as systemized, duplicatable, whereas this strategy was. So it was that effective in terms of duplication that I literally took, a 17-year-old kid who came to me with no marketing experience, and within a few weeks was able to generate a following on TikTok of like 4,000 people 3 times over, because his TikTok accounts got banned a couple of times too. So he generated like thousands of followers, and with that, not just followers, leads that came in, way more than I had in a much shorter space of time. And I was literally just having this conversation yesterday with my mum about how the mark of a great leader is not based off of how good they are at what they personally do, but it's more so about their impact and how much they can help producers to be more productive. So it's not always the smartest person that's a leader. It's not always the strongest person. It's not always the most talented person that's a leader, but it's the one that can truly inspire a group of people to become more productive. But yeah, going back to what I was saying about, the way of which you will be putting out your content, free content, TikTok, and you're seeing that, I'm only getting 500, 700 views. Okay, so you're not doing the research is one thing. Second thing is that your actual content, you're not looking at it, right? And I would say hands down that the more that you actually review your own content, once you've posted it, if you just, at the end of every single week, because what I was doing as to why I was able to continually improve, and Kaizen, Kaizen in Japanese, it means constant and never-ending improvement. The reason why I was able to Kaizen and constantly improve is because every single day I was actually doing a 5-minute journal video for myself where I just talk about my reflections on the day and my intentions for the next day. And what this was getting me to do is like really reflect on what was working, what wasn't. But if I was to like speak to myself back then, I would have said, listen, every single week, what you want to be doing is literally sitting down with a template, a spreadsheet, a tracker, whatever you want to sit down with, and just assess, how things are going, not necessarily the metrics, but in the creative, with what you're actually creating, stuff back and ask yourself, is there any way that you can make an improvement to this? We would do this all the time in my previous sales company that I used to work at. And the reason why I got so good at sales is because they would literally sit us down and get us to listen to our own sales calls. And so if you just had that awareness around, what you're doing in your own content, you'd probably very quickly be able to give yourself some feedback. And the reason it's so easy to do this is because as human beings, like, we find it very difficult to give ourselves honest feedback when we are in our own bodies, because we don't want to hurt ourselves. Like we have this ego that we don't want to necessarily, change or let go of. So when the video is like outside of you and you're reviewing it in second person, you're now detached from it, and you can actually be a lot more objective around it. You can see straight away like the ums and the ahs, or the ways of which your video is blurry. And when you give a hard look at it and you just ask yourself, what can I do to improve it? If there's just one thing, if you did that every single day, by 7 days, 10 days, what's going to happen is you will literally not have that many mistakes that you can possibly be making. And so there's a saying, which is that you should don't the don'ts before you do the do's. And it's very easy to spot the don'ts before you spot the do's. Any random person who is your family member or is a friend, a fan, a hater, they can very quickly tell you what the don'ts are. And that's another good thing about going viral, is that you get a lot of feedback from your fans and your haters. So don't take the haters' comments as things that are just to be deleted and got rid of, but there's actually some value in that feedback that you're getting for free. Haters can be some of the most invaluable people to have around you if you're willing to do that growth and you have thick skin. So yeah, having that mindset of like, okay, you're gonna take the action. Number one, of course, you're gonna review the process and review the work that you're doing. And then the question is, okay, well, what is it specifically that you want to be reviewing when you are putting out this content? Like, what do you want to be looking for? What's important? What is actually going to engineer this success of having tons of leads come through that are actually the ideal people that you want to work with? And what I would be saying there is that, like, if you're able to have something that has a lot of resonance towards it in what the messages that you're portraying to your ideal audience, then that's also going to have the depth as well as the high volume with the virality. So those are two main things that you're going to be focused on: virality and resonance. In the beginning, for me, it was all about virality, but resonance is later down the line to become the more important thing. And the first thing is, if you're looking at things like virality, I'd be saying that the thing that really stops people from giving you their attention when you go onto platforms is, unfortunately, people are more judging of the way that you look before they are of what it is that you say. So you may be looking at yourself and thinking, well, I'm not the best looking person in the world, or I don't really have my value in that particular area, which is absolutely fine. You don't need to be someone who is a supermodel in terms of your looks, or like one of the celebrities who is just in the top 1% and being gifted. If you are, then of course it helps. But if you're not, it doesn't matter, because you can compensate in different ways. So how you can compensate is by, for example, rather than focusing primarily on just yourself and putting a random camera there, making sure that the actual camera that you're using is decent quality. And for me, like, making the investment into the camera that I currently have was one of the, most important investments that I think I've made in terms of my personal brand, because number one, it's given me the confidence to, put out these videos on YouTube, but also it's given me skin in the game. When you invest into your equipment, then you will more likely put out videos and continue doing some content. But before I even got this camera, which is a Sony A6400, I was just literally using my phone. And I didn't have a good phone camera at first, because it was just like a terrible phone, with one of my first phones. But I decided that I'm going to literally go and get the best phone camera that I can possibly afford right now on a contract. And it was just like 20, 30 pounds a month for this contract phone. But that investment allowed me to make these organic videos and generate leads that helped me to make high ticket sales. So it was totally worth it when you think about it. So having a good camera is the first thing. But what's the saying is that a man is only good as the tools that he has. But at the end of the day, if you don't know how to use those tools, then it doesn't really matter. You can be gifted with the tools that you have, but in many ways, if you don't know how to use it, then doesn't doesn't make any sense to have it. So some of the biggest mistakes I see people making when it comes to their devices is, like, number one, they think that like you can just record videos without considering anything to do with cinematography, right? So there's photography, which is about the study of taking photos, but cinematography is the study of taking videos. And I'm not talking about you having to become like this next Steven Spielberg type of videographer, but you still have to have like a good understanding of how lighting works, of how there are different depths that you have to your shots, and different shots that you have, and what these shots mean. Because the way that I view your videography, it's almost like a language that you are communicating to your audience, and the language that people speak right now compared to what it was like in the past, where we only had our body language. Then it became, we had our verbal language, but now it's becoming a lot more about like the language of poetry, and music was something again that was communicated a lot, so the auditory language. But I'd say now it's like a lot more like the visual language, and people are communicating to each other in this visual language. So how you're communicating to your audience it's a visual experience, and every shot that you have will communicate a different message. So one of the things that I've personally done today that you might notice, or you may not if you've seen some of my previous videos, is that I was thinking to myself, how can I improve my own cinematography when I was looking at some of my past videos? And one simple thing was thinking about like how, in terms of body language, how people perceive each other. People can perceive you with body language in a way where you either come across as being a friend or more of a figure of authority. So if you are going to be seen as being a figure of authority, like straight away, look at a classroom setting. You've got a person who is the teacher, and you've got the student. Now, the teacher, when they're stood up, they're the person who's the figure of authority, but the student, because they're sat down on a lower level, like just subconsciously, they're going to give authority to the person who is the teacher with the whiteboard. And so this is what people who like are really intentional with what they're doing with their videography, like they'll also make it so that when they are putting out their video content, like they're going to place the camera in such a way where if you want to be seen as an authority, then the camera is going to be lower, and your upper half will be at the sort of top of the frame, and the camera is going to be tilted up. Just that in itself is going to help you to become a figure of authority. And these were little things that I knew from my advertising, because I would see the difference that would happen in terms of engagement when I would have the phone from lower versus like close up versus far away versus high. All of this is communicating these different messages because it's the subconscious body language triggers that are being communicated. Another thing that I shifted that you might have seen from some of my older videos was how initially, like I was talking very much like dead on straight to the camera like that, which, you see in most videos that people have. But I thought, how can I change it a little bit? How can I make an improvement? And I just decided that in terms of body language, if I want to be a little bit more welcoming, or like as if I am having a connection with a person that I'm familiar with, then rather than it being a case where I'm speaking like face to face like this, I'm going to have an angle where, I'm speaking to someone as if we're on the same side of the table. So this is something that I'm trying out, but at the end of the day, like it's all about testing as well, seeing which one works better. But having these ideas when it comes to making improvements, eventually you're going to hit on something that genuinely works. So those are just a couple of things in terms of the frame of a shot. There's this right now is what I call an A roll, right? And in filming, it's called A roll, where it's just the majority of speaking. A lot of the content that I'm going to start putting out as well this year too is going to be B roll content. B roll is the overlay content that you will see on top of an A roll footage. So if you have a music video, it's like all the the different shots that come on top of the actual music, which is the part of the A roll. And if you have a cinema footage, then it's mainly B roll as well, right? It's the cinematics things that are going on top of the main scene. So it's telling that story. So a lot of content that we see on social media right now, it's like mainly B roll. It's not even A roll content. But yeah, for this A roll, like what I'd be saying is that like if you are putting out long form YouTube content, then you want to make sure that the shot is something that feels as though somebody else would want to be in the room with you. That's the kind of vibe that you want to portray. So you can be thinking a little bit about how can you make it like that. What I've done, I've got my books over there so people know that they're coming for knowledge. I've got my my vibe in terms of the lighting, where it's got all of the different lights and stuff like that. So that's making it have like the chill atmosphere. It reflects my branding. So these are things that I've thought about. But in general, when it comes to lighting, we'll see one of the biggest mistakes I see people make is that they do a video and they're not even thinking about the lighting. They're literally just getting a camera and either doing it in the dark or doing it where the light is making them not the spotlight of the video. So the main thing you want to do is make sure if that you're going to film a video that the light is going to be looking directly at your face. So if it's in the sun, typically sunlight is the best type of light that you can actually film with. I personally have my lighting in the form of softbox. So if you're going to do it in a studio, softbox is definitely the best light that you can use. They're a little bit bigger, but it just gives it this cinematic look and feel. Because even if I had my great camera that I'm using and I didn't have this softbox, I'm telling you, the shot would not look anywhere near as crisp and clean. So that's a couple of things there when it comes to lighting. And even with sunlight, like one thing that you have to learn the hard way too, if no one's ever taught you this, is that if you're going to film a video, never film a video in sunlight when it is during the daytime and the sun's like highest in the sky, because the sun's going to be coming directly down, and that's not a good angle. The best angle is going to be when it's close to sunrise or sunset. So you have about a 1 hour window, or 1 hour before, not 1 hour after, but like 1 hour before sunset and 1 hour after sunrise. Those are usually like the best times to get footage when you're outdoors or when you're in your car, things like this. And you just notice straight away, like the shot looks 10 times better. And it's little things like this that will truly help with that virality, because when people can see like, wow, this is something that actually looks nice, it looks good in the shot, they will stop and they'll appreciate that. And that's half of the equation, just getting the person to stop. The next one is like really being able to get that connection and build a belief through the content, so they'll actually give you some commitment. And so how you will be able to build that resonance with the person is going to be in how you show up in your content. And if you're showing up in a way where you are kind of unalive, you're not really moving, you're very still, it's quite boring, then unless a person truly likes you already, chances are they're not going to be totally gravitated towards you when you're not being your highest expression of self. So even if, like, for me, for example, I'm a very calm, individual. Like right now, I don't know, like I don't feel like I'm even being calm right now compared to what I'm usually like. But when people watch my videos, they always say like, oh, this guy's like super calm and chill and relaxing. He gives off these type of vibes. But this is actually me being a lot more animated than I usually am, right? This is actually me, not necessarily putting on a performance, but it's me showing up as my most authentic and more passionate, animated version of myself. The one that's you will see when I'm more engaged and more present and more embodied in the character that I portray as the one who is like the leader of my own brand, etc., and the face of my brand. So it's not necessarily to, like I said, like put on a fake version of yourself, but it's just if you are going to be putting out content, then at least you know make an effort to really send your message with a punch, rather than it just coming across like it's a tap. You can't be tapping people if you want to have an impact. You got to be like punching them in the face, or shaking them up, that kind of thing. So when you show up in your content, like people can really tell when you mean it. People can tell when you have that conviction. So this is an important thing to consider as well, because if you don't come with that energy and come with the energy of the authority, then people will stop because you've got the nice look, you've got the nice feel. They might like, they might even comment like an emoji, but no one is going to send you a paragraph and be like, yo, that was incredible. Like, that was amazing. I want to see more of this. I'm so glad that I found your page, etc. Like, no one will be saying that stuff unless you come at it with like your actual full force of who you are, like within your true power. And that requires confidence. The reason why is because most people don't want to be rejected. Most people don't want to be judged. So you may be putting out content right now and it's overcome your fear of judgment a little bit. You may be putting out content right now, but at the same time, like, in the back of your mind that you're holding back. You're not giving it full force. You're not actually showing up with the way that you would show up if you had got like all of the success that you aspire to have in the future and you had that next level self-confidence. You're showing up in a way where it's hiding yourself a little bit, not being your full self. And people can feel that when you are hiding. People will be able to notice. So rather than showing up and not feeling as though you can truly express the fullness of who you are and be truly tapped in and turned on, like, if you're not expressing yourself as that person, as the one where it's like, this is your full force, this is your full raw, then imagine it's going to be also reciprocated by the way that people will engage. People will hold back in how they engage. And if you're feeling like right now, like, I'm getting people to like, I'm getting them to comment, but they're just not putting in the word that I want them to say to then become a lead, or they're not showing me a paragraph, they're not actually sending me these messages, then just ask yourself, like, are you actually giving it your full 100% in terms of sharing what you're convicted about, sharing what it is that you feel like you want to say, that God is calling you to say, but you feel like, I know I can't say that. If you're operating from that space, then you are still operating from fear when you're putting out your content. And what it truly requires in order for you to have real resonance with people is to not show up afraid, but to show up unafraid. And how you do that is by using love. Because perfect love casts out fear. And when you operate from the space of love, like, people feel the passion coming through when you're sharing your message in your content. And so that's actually looking more so the inner work rather than just the outer actions and the energy that you're showing up as. If you intentionally, before you do a piece of content or make an advertisement, you do a meditation, you really ground yourself and you get connected with your heart, you're embodied into the present moment, and you feel the love that you want to go and extend and share with others. Because at the end of the day, if you're making content and you're doing it from that space of love, like you're doing it to serve a person. Like what I'm sharing with you right now, like I'm literally doing this from a place of love. I'm like thinking to myself, what would be the best message that I can share with someone right now who needs to see this bit of content? Because I have that care and compassion and love that I'm extending out. So every single message that you're sharing, like you could be sharing something that's real, right? You could be sharing something that, you know, somebody needs to hear, but the way that you're sharing it is not in a way where it's really landing for people. Because you're going to be waking people up, and when you do come at it with full force and full passion and all of that love, not only will it be something that will resonate, but it's also going to be taken not with offense. So there are some people who I would say like they confuse anger with passion. And I'm not telling you to get angry at people, right? Because when you start doing that, that's going to cause offense and disputes. Some people talk about having polarity. You need that for the algorithm to do its thing. Personally, I don't think that you have to do that, because usually when you start operating from anger, like you start slandering people, you start bringing in demonic entities. I'm not a fan of that at all. But when you are becoming a lot more passionate, then it can have a similar kind of effect as to what anger will have in terms of the polarity of the audience. But you know, you're going to be coming at it from a place that can also be truly resonant for your target audience. So yeah, that passion comes from love. And this is what the game is really about. Can you be the person that's willing to love on your audience harder than anyone else? That's it. Like I should really end the video there right now. That's, if there's one thing that you get from this video today, let it be that. Let it be this, that your content right now, it's like it's not alive, right? I was literally thinking about this analogy earlier on in sharing this with someone so it can truly land for you. If you imagine like you've got a painting, a picture, a drawing, and it's colored in, it's beautiful, but it's just still, right? So when you're looking at the painting, some people say that the beautiful thing about art is that the more that you look into it and you stare at it, the more that the picture actually comes alive for you, because your imagination starts to animate the picture, right? This is what I'm saying about your content currently. It's like your content is currently like a still picture to other people. And you want them to be looking at it more and more and more as if your content is the Mona Lisa. So if it is beautiful, people will look at your content more, and they will with their imagination like animate it. But if you want to have the best of both worlds, where you have people stopping and creating the viral potential as well as the high resonance, then make sure you animate your content, you animate yourself, bring in a aliveness to it, bring that love to it, and everything will shift in terms of the way that you get your responses. And one thing that I can say is like proof that it's been working for me is that I've not been posting these videos for a long time. I have literally got like on average 10 to 20 views on these videos for now. But the ratio of likes and comments has been high. And when people have commented, they've said that I never usually comment on videos, but I felt compelled to comment on your video because you said something that truly resonated. You dropped a gem and it just landed differently. Like there's something that I'm doing here. So I've not been focusing so much on virality with these, but this is a great example of what when you truly love on your audience and you know exactly who you're speaking with and what they need to hear, then the impact can be significant, truly. So, yeah, those are a couple of the main reasons I would say, like, why you're not actually generating your leads in abundance with your organic content, because you don't have that resonance and you don't have that virality. You change those two main things, I guarantee you're going to see some significant changes in terms of the way that people are looking at you in your content and gravitating towards you differently. Because the best way I can explain it, and I was just about to put a video up of this as well on my channel, is I was telling the guy about how I had a misconception about, what it was like to make content on social media. I thought it was all about the tactics. I thought it was all about knowing the different metrics, etc. But really, truly, it humbled me when I started to reflect on just how people will still have been able to build movements and communities and organizations without social media, without mobile phones, without televisions. Like, how are they still able to build these nations? And the reason why is because they were great leaders. And so if you have that leadership attribute to you as well, where you can communicate in a way which truly moves people by speaking from your heart and speaking with love and passion and with conviction, then now having this tool with social media and AI and like your phone, all of that is not as a replacement, but it's as an addition. It's just something that will magnify and amplify your message. But if your message isn't being delivered with these fundamentals, as that leader, then there's no point having it. And so you may be right now seeing yourself as a leader. You may be, you have the vision. You might be someone who, all on paper, like, yeah, I'm that person and I know it personally, but no one else knows it, because even when you're showing up in your content, the way that you're showing up is like small. You're trying to not necessarily offend anybody. You're not trying to like show parts of yourself that is the real parts of who you are, because well and truly what you're most afraid of is, as I was saying, you're afraid of being rejected and being loved for who you really are. And so if you can portray yourself with a mask or not in the fullness of your expression and what you're truly passionate about, then at the end of the day, what people can do is like they can, as haters, say things negative towards you, but it won't really hurt you because you are not even putting out who you are truly. And this is the same thing that happens in relationships as well. When you think about it, it's like if you go into a relationship and you're not actually being your true self, and then it ends up being that the person rejects who you put out as that version, then it doesn't bother you. Same thing here, which is why the best superpower that you can have when you're putting out your content really and truly is vulnerability. Because when I'm talking about vulnerability, I'm not actually saying that you got to go and share the deepest parts of who you are and the deepest, darkest secrets, etc. You don't have to share those things. What I'm saying is that being vulnerable means to be willing to put out your authentic self, be willing to show some of the things that you're passionate about, what your actual thoughts and your feelings are. Be willing to show that to others so that they may potentially say something negative and it still not affect you. That's like real power. And if it does hurt, it hurts. But you have that willingness to potentially have a hurt ego, to potentially have yourself be hurt. As long as you're willing to experience that, like, you'll never truly be harmed. You'll just experience a little bit of that hurt a little bit. But at the end of the day, sometimes the truth hurts. But also remember, the truth is what shall set you free. So welcome it with open arms and have that intention to serve and really genuinely help others with your content, and show how much you care. I think this is the essence of what I'm really saying right now, especially if you don't have a big following, you don't have tons of people that know who you are and you don't have like these crazy results right now, then you can never compete on the actual words that you're sharing. You can never compete on the status that you have or the influence. But what you will be able to 100% compete on is how much energy you bring to the game, how much passion that you bring to it, and how much you care. You know, that's the biggest challenge that you want to set yourself, is like, let it be that nobody in your niche cares about your target audience more than you do. Let it be that no one is showing more care to your audience than you are. And that's how, when people are coming and gravitating towards you, they're going to be like, yeah, that's my person. That's my leader. Because shit, if I can get them to care about me the way that they've been caring about like their audience and their following, then I'm safe, I'm taken care of. And at the end of the day, like, that's what people need to feel before they become clients, customers, and people that are going to be following in your organization. They have to feel safe with you. So right now, chances are, if you're anything like me, like, you do genuinely care. Just like I was a few years ago, like, I cared more than most people from everything that I heard. And when I used to get into deep connections with people, I realized that, like, wow, I do actually care a lot more than others. But now it's time for you to start showing that care. Now it's time for you to stop hiding behind the screen and seeing other people who don't care more than you take up your audience. Now it's time to show like the actual heart that you have. That's your authority. So yeah, it's good to be back. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. And this is just the beginning. I've been getting so much great feedback on some of these videos, which is not necessarily like the reason as to why I'm doing it primarily is for the feedback, but I'm telling you, like, it does keep me going and reassures me, gives me more momentum. I love connecting with you guys, and it's only the beginning. I've got some big ideas with where we're going with this channel. So stay tuned, and I'll see you on the next video as well. Thanks for watching. Peace and love. Take care.